I did a video on the bar exams and I noticed that a lot of people watched it and were interested in knowing how to study for the bar exams. So today I'm going to share how I studied for the bar exams as a foreign law graduate, and I will talk about three different things. So first I'm going to start talking about timelines. How much time did I spend preparing for the two exams and why did I spend that much time? Second, I'll tell you my technique and what I did to prepare for the exams included indices, notes. For those of you who are writing the bar exams, you probably have heard indices, you know, which is something that a lot of people are looking for. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And the last thing that I would talk about is just my overall strategy when it came to time management and how did I figure that out. First, in terms of timelines, I think I said this previously as well. As a foreign law graduate, I did not study a lot of the courses that you were supposed to study for the bar exams. So for example, I did my master's in international business law. I was familiar with business law. I did the NCA exam, so I was familiar with constitutional foundation, all of that stuff. However, I had no clue about litigation, so family law, public law. Actually, public law I was a little bit familiar with. Family law, criminal law, real estate. So a lot of the courses I had never studied in school. I had no clue how to understand them, and I had no clue how to, how to approach this, because a lot of times people had told me that, you don't need to study a lot because you're going to have the materials and you just have to find the answers. Now, for me, I was thinking that how am I going to find an answer if I don't even know what I'm reading? Or like I need to understand basic concepts for me to know where to look for. So I spent a lot of time studying for these exams. I spent 3 months per exam. So 3 months I studied for the barrister and I wrote them separately. So 3 months for the barrister exam and then 3 months for the solicitor exam. And I wrote them separately because the syllabus was too much and it was too much information to absorb. I felt like I couldn't focus on both of them together. Because again, I did not understand a lot of the things, and I didn't ask anybody for help. It was all self-study. I didn't do any courses. I didn't do any of that. It was a lot of, like, it was just figuring out things on my own. So I spent 3 months per exam, and I'll talk about how I divided the months. But in terms of timelines, this is the timeline that I looked at, and for me, it worked because I know that I need time to prepare. And I also understood that while a lot of people will tell you that the bar exams are about looking or finding the answer in your textbooks or in your materials, well, to a certain degree, yes. But for someone who's so new to these concepts, I will not know where to look, or I will not even understand what I'm looking for if I don't know basic things. So that's why I spend a lot of time, 3 months. If you ask somebody, they would be like, oh, it's a little bit over. I think you spent too much, but I don't regret it. How did I study for the bar exams? First, I bought indices. So for those of you who don't know what indices are, indices is basically just, it's like how do I explain it? It's like a table of content that is prepared by different schools or people. And the table of content primarily just tells you, if there's a question about family law, divorce, this is the page number that you need to go to. Or, if it's a question about child custody, you'll take a look at the indices and be like, oh, this is the page number that I need to go to look for the answer. Now, when I got the indices, to be honest with you, I did not understand how to use them. I bought them, I paid for them, but it was too confusing for me because the way that I see things, so when somebody is preparing something, it's their mindset that they're using because they have read the syllabus in a certain way and they understand it, and then they're using their brain because they have all that knowledge to prepare something. If you haven't read the materials and you haven't prepared your own indices, then you're missing out on the main thing, which is actually understanding the material. So indices did not work for me. I did not understand them. I had no idea how to use them. I tried, but I just really did not understand them. So what I did was that I read the materials 3 to 4 times. And this is what, even for the preparation, this is what it states. And I just used the table of content provided by the Law Society of Ontario to find answers to the questions or understand where each topic is, because I was reading the syllabus or reading the materials as though, just like the table of content, meaning that I was first reading a certain chapter, then a second chapter. All of that was laid out in the table of content. I really did not need to buy anything. Everything is provided by the Law Society, and you just need to know how to use it. So I studied the material for 3 to 4 times. First time, I just read it. Didn't matter if I understood it or not. I didn't care. I just got to read it. Understand, just get familiar with it. The second time, I read the material to understand a little bit more. Again, the second time, I still did not understand a lot of things. But this time, the concepts that I did not understand at all, I spent a few days researching about them, just kind of reading it again, making sure to spend some time to understand it. The third time, when I read it, I actually started highlighting stuff. Okay, this is important. And then going back to the table of content, understanding where each topic is. The third time was actually the most important one because because I had read the material twice, I could pin down or be like, oh, this is what seems to be important. So that's what I did the third time. The fourth time that I read the material was just to kind of, how you summarize stuff when you've done everything and you do like a little summary of it. I did it just so that I still knew, and I felt comfortable going into the exam, so that it just made me feel better. So I read it the fourth time. The fourth time didn't have a specific purpose. It was just like rereading it and making sure I still know where everything is. So I read the material 4 times, and it took me about, I would say, 2 months to do that. 2 months to read the materials 4 times. And making my own notes, obviously not 2 months, 1.5 months. Now, the next 1.5 months, I spent time practicing exam questions with the table of content that I had and the materials that I had highlighted. So important that you practice exam questions. Do the same exam again and again. Doesn't matter. It's about knowing where to look for the answer and knowing that you're familiar with the material. So that is one thing that made me feel really confident when I went into the exam, is that I read the materials 4 times, 3 to 4 times. And then I practiced the questions over and over again. Every single day, I would practice and time myself. Back in the day, the exam was 7 hours long, so I would actually spend 7 hours doing the exam. Sometimes I'll do one exam or the other, but towards the end, the entire week before the exam, 7 hours, I just prepared myself as though I'm going to do this over and over again. So the day of the exam, I don't feel like, oh my gosh, it's 7 hours. I buy the exam questions. I bought Emont Bar exam questions. Those were really good. I also bought Ontario Bar exam. I don't exactly remember, but it was called Ontario Bar exam something. I had a few friends who had passed me down some exams too. And so I had in total maybe about 600 questions. And I did them over and over again because it's not about memorizing. It's about knowing where to look. Every time you do a question again, you're not going to remember it. Trust me, because it's so much information. So I know I'm saying a lot, but just to kind of summarize, spent 1.5 months reading the materials 4 times. Then I spent the other 1.5 months practicing like crazy. Doesn't matter. Every day, wake up and practice exam. The questions that you don't understand, go back and spend the time to actually understand the area of the law. Because like I said, as a foreign law graduate, I really did not know I had never studied these areas before. So for me, it's about understanding these things as opposed to anything else. So I use that opportunity when I'm practicing exams to also learn what I don't know. And yeah, so 3 months is what I did. And indices, I couldn't find any of them useful, so I just used Law Society of Ontario table of content, highlighting, tabbing. All of that is good, but if you don't understand the material, nothing is going to be enough for you. I know people are like, tab this, highlight this, make sure you use this. Yeah, but at the same time, you need to know what you're reading. You need to understand basic concepts for you to even highlight stuff. So again, if somebody says, I remember a lot of people were just like, oh, we studied for 2 weeks, which to me, it's just mind blowing to me how people can study for 2 weeks and pass. And again, which is fine. Maybe they just understand the area, but generally speaking, foreign lawyers do not know about this area of the law or a lot of the areas on the bar exam. So it is completely natural to spend more time on it. And that's why I want to talk about it, because in my head, I felt like I was overdoing it, but again, no regrets. Overall, my experience, I felt like when I was writing the bar exams, it was in person and 7 hours long. And those 7 hours go by so fast. It's a minute you can't waste. I felt a lot of anxiety and stress during these exams that I cannot explain in words, because it's 3.5 hours. You're just literally running against time, because any second is important, because there's so many questions. You can't spend more than 2 minutes or even less than that on one question, because there's so many questions on the exam. So I remember for my, I don't remember, barrister or solicitor exam, I was writing the exam and I realized that I had to use the washroom. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, why? Because I'm going to be spending at least 3 to 4 minutes going to the washroom, coming back, because it's a big hall. And those 5 minutes can make or break you, because it's you have to do things so fast. And I was so stressed out about that, but you can't really control that. There's no way that you can control that. But just sharing my experience, it was really stressful. It's 7 hours. It's long. It's exhausting. You're just. I remember I couldn't look anywhere else. You're just looking at the exam and just thinking. You're in some sort of other mode. Just you have for me it was do or die situation where I can't even look anywhere else because I'm gonna waste my time. There's such less time for you, and no matter how hard you try or no matter what it is, sometimes for these exams you have to be very, very careful not to spend extra time on questions, because you will run out of time. So that was my experience in terms of time management. But overall, the bar exams were hard for me, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think it's one of the hardest exams that I've written in my life. But, it's a matter of figuring out what works for you. Because for me, it's spending the time and the hours and practicing is what I think. That's how I succeed. I'm not somebody who can read something for 2 days and just be good at it. I need to put in the time and the effort. Maybe some people are, I don't know. But if you're somebody who's similar to me, just understand it's just time and effort that you need to put in, and you can do it. But there's nothing wrong with spending a little bit more time than other people, because at the end of the day, it is your career, and it is going to benefit you in the future. If you're somebody writing the bar exams, good luck, and I hope that this was helpful.